Hello students, so this is the first chapter in your geography textbook resources and development which I'll be covering in two presentations. In this chapter we'll be learning about what are resources, their types, their development and planning, their conservation, etc. Okay, so let's start with resources. A resource is basically a supply, mostly that we get from nature, from which we can have some benefit or that has some utility. For example, for plants, the most important resources are sunlight, nutrients, water, soil, etc. These resources for a plant enable its existence, and they allow them to exist in nature and sustain itself. Okay, for an animal, the most essential resources are food, water, territory, etc. Again, these resources enables them to conserve themselves and to sustain themselves. So basically, the concept of resources is always related to sustainability and conservation, and of course existence in the environment. Now human beings themselves are the most essential components of resources, because they have the ability to transform whatever material that we obtain from the nature into some resource which can be used to meet their energy demands. So any such thing that can be used to satisfy our energy demands, which can be technologically accessible, economically feasible, and culturally acceptable, is called a resource. Okay, so the classification of resources is done in four ways on the basis of origin, exhaustibility, ownership, and status of development. So let's start with them. The first and the most basic classification of resources is the is on basis of origin. There are two classes: biotic and abiotic resources. The biotic resources are those which are obtained from the biosphere and are living in nature. For example, human beings, flora and fauna, fisheries, livestock, etc. So all the living beings on this earth are termed are of the class of biotic resources. The abiotic resources are those which are composed of non-living things. For example, rocks, metals, fossil fuels, etc. So this is the most basic classification, where all the living things form the biotic resources and all the non-living ones form the abiotic resources. On the basis of exhaustibility, we have two classes. One is the renewable resources and the non-renewable resources. The renewable resources are those which can be reproduced by physical, chemical, or mechanical processes in the environment. For example, solar energy, wind energy, water, forests, wildlife, etc. These are also called green types of resources, because they do not harm the environment in any way, or I should say, they anyway are responsible for the upliftment of the environment. So these are also called the green resources. So the examples are the solar energy, wind energy, hydro energy, etc. The non renewable resources are those which form inside the earth's crust over a very long period of time. These resources take millions of years to form, and these are non recyclable. Okay, and they get exhausted in the environment very fast. They are also responsible for emission of greenhouse gases when they are burnt, like carbon dioxide, methane, etc., which is responsible for global warming also. Okay, on the basis of ownership, there are four classes: individual, community owned, national, and international resources. The individual resources are those which are owned privately by any individual. For example, if a farmer owns a land which is there in his family for from many generations, then that land is his private resource. If he decides to do farming on that land, the crop that he yields is also going to be a private resource owned by that particular farmer. Community owned resources are those resources which are accessible to all the members of a particular community. For example, in a village, the grazing ground, the village pond, the park, the school, etc. are going to be called the community owned resources. Then there are national resources. All the resources that belong to the nation are called national resources, or I should say all the resources that are present in a particular country are its national resources. For example, the land, the roads, the canals, the railways, etc. Then the water resources, the wildlife, the forests, etc. are called the national resources. The international resources are those which are present in the international boundaries. For example, the area of the ocean beyond 200 nautical miles in the open ocean, which nobody, or I should say no country has a right to, are constituted in the international resources. Okay. On the basis of status of development, we have four classes. Number one, potential resources. Now these are the resources which are found in a region, but they have not been utilized. For example, Rajasthan and Gujarat have a very good potential for the development of wind and solar energy, but so far this has not been developed very well. So basically this is an ever growing field. As we get more knowledge about this, we'll be able to explore these wind and solar energy options better, in a better way. Okay. Developed resources are those which are surveyed and their quality and quantity have been determined for utilization. What that means is the development of these resources depends on the level of technology and their feasibility. Okay. Then we have stock. Stock means the materials which in the environment which have the potential to satisfy human needs, but human beings do not have an because of shortage of technology, then I'll call it a stock. For example, there is always a very good hypothesis of turning salt water into drinking water. Now this idea, as simple as it seems, is a very complex one and very expensive one. So to use or implement this idea for the sake of for the upliftment of society to get drinking water is a very difficult and a very expensive idea, and that is the reason we don't know how, or we don't have those advanced technical knowledge about how to convert that salt water into drinking water, and that is the reason it is going to be just a stock for us. Okay. Now the fourth class is the reserve. Now reserves are basically the subset of the stock which can be put into use with the help of existing technical knowledge, but their use has not been started. So basically these reserves are those stocks which we can use to our knowledge, but maybe for meeting our future requirements. For example, water in the dams, forests, growing forests. Now if I start to grow a forest right now, I won't be able to use it because I cannot grow a forest overnight. It will happen over a period of many years, and after that forest is formed, I can use it. So that is why it will be used as a reserve. Okay, so this is the classification of resources. Now we go to the development of resources. Now development of resources is very important for our survival as well as for maintaining the quality of life. Okay, it is also believed, basically initially it was believed that these resources that we have are the gifts of nature. Of course they are the gifts of nature, but the way human beings have used these resources, exploited them, has made us realize that first of all, the non-renewable resources are limited in nature. Secondly, they are responsible for greenhouse effect, which causes global warming, which is a threat to our existence. Okay, so that is the reason we need to develop the resources and plan them. Okay. uh, for example, depletion of resources for satisfying the greed of a few individuals has led to the depletion and exploitation of the resources that we have to a very large scale. Similarly, it is also raised problems like global warming, ozone layer depletion, environmental pollution, land degradation, because of which has and all these phenomenon have a lot of other consequences also. All right, and this is the reason we need sustainable economical development of the resources, which means that development should take place without damaging the environment, and development in the present should not be compromising with the future generation needs. All right, so the future generations, when we go, we should be leaving them some amount of resources as well as some technology to sustain themselves and to make good use of the existing resources. All right, so we'll be talking about sustainable development and resource planning now. So, resource planning in India is very important because there are some regions in the country which are considered very self sufficient in terms of availability of the resources, and there are some regions which have very high shortage or some very much required resources. For example, the cold desert of Ladakh is relatively isolated from the rest of the country. Although it has a very rich cultural heritage, it is deficient in water, infrastructure, and many vital minerals. All these points make us realize that we need a balanced resource planning in India at national, state, regional, and local levels. Now, this is a very complex process which we need to consider after a couple of points. The first point is we first need to identify and see and assess the types of resources which are available across the all the regions of the country. Now this will involve surveying, mapping, and qualitatively and quantitatively estimating and taking measurement of all the resources that are available. Okay, number 2 will be evolving a planning structure in such a way that appropriate technology, skill, and institutional setup can implement a resource development plan for the overall national development plan. Okay, the third point is matching this resource development with the overall national development plan. So basically, we need to first identify and find out which regions are abundant, which regions are deficient, then plan how the the resources present in the abundant regions can be transferred to the ones which are needy, and number 3, how this complex setup plan can be ultimately related or match, or you can say implement the overall national development plan. Okay, now, resources can contribute to the development only when they are accompanied by appropriate technological and development and institutional changes. Our country has made concerted efforts towards achieving the goals of resource planning right from the first 5-year plan, which was launched after the independence. Okay, now we will go to conservation of resources. Now, conservation of resources is basically very important because I had just spoken about how the non-renewable resources have created a havoc all over the world because of the indiscriminate use and exploitation of non-renewable resources to meet our energy demands, which raised the overall carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere, leading to greenhouse effect and global warming, a depletion of ozone layer, etc. Okay, so we'll be talking about that. The conservation of resources, or the concept of the conservation of resources, has been very old, as I just talked about. In the first, we'll start with land resources. Since we live on land, it is a very important natural resource, because it supports natural vegetation, wildlife, human life, economic activities, and whatnot. Okay, so land is an asset of finite magnitude, and that is the reason it is very important to use the available land for various purposes with careful planning. This is a very important topic, and you should be reading this topic very carefully. So India has been very diverse in the type of land that is available to our country. For example, we have got mountains, plateaus, plains, islands, etc. Okay, 43% of the total surface area of India is in plain, which provides facilities for agriculture, industry, transport and communication, etc. Then 30% of the total surface area account for the mountains, and 27% of the total surface area is in the plateau region, which possesses rich reserves of minerals, fossil fuels and forests. Now, land resources are used for various purposes. Number 1, forests. Number 2, the land that is not available for cultivation. Then there is some land that is also not used for cultivation, but consists of permanent pastures, grazing land, cultivable wasteland, etc. Fallow lands, the lands without cultivation, the lands that are left without cultivation for a couple of years, so that their natural minerals can replenish themselves. And fifth, for cultivation, the land which is under cultivation is also called the net sown area. This is basically the concept is used because the government has taken care of how much land that can be used for the total agricultural year, for the purpose of agricultural planning, so that a particular amount of land can be left for the forest reserves, and so that we can conserve our forests also. Okay, the total area that is sown more than once in an agricultural year plus the net sown area in the country is called gross cropped area. Okay, this is a very important term. Now, land use pattern in India is basically determined by various factors like topography, climate, soil types, as well as human factors like population density, technological capability, cultural and traditions. Now, this is a pie chart which shows the general land use categories in the year of 1960-61 and the recent one 2014 and 15. Here we can see that the net sown area has almost remained the same. The fallow land other than the current fallow is has increased like 20 to 23.3%. The wasteland has almost has decreased a little bit. The wasteland basically is the land which is non-agricultural. Okay, so it can be a rocky road region, it can be desert area, roads, railways, industrial areas. These are also constituents of the wastelands only. Now, continuous use of land over a long period of time without taking appropriate measures to conserve and manage it has resulted in a lot of land degradation. Okay, now the geographical area of the country is almost 3.28 million square kilometers. Okay, and we only have the data available for 93% of the total area, because the use of land reporting in most of the northeastern states has not been done fully. Okay, now from the first pie chart to another, we can see that the land under permanent pasture has decreased. So and this is an important point, because the growing cattle population has a growing need of feeding, which is going to be difficult for us to manage. Okay, Now the pattern of net sown area varies differently, okay, from one state to another. Over 80% of the total area in Punjab and Haryana are the net zone, constitute the net zone area, but in other states like northeastern states of Arunachal Pradesh, Mizoram, and Andaman and Nicobar Islands have a very less amount. This was the disbalance in resources I was talking about in the previous slides. Okay, now the forest area in country is also less, far lower than the desired 33% of the geographical area. As per the normal rules given by the government of India, or 33% of minimum area of the country should be under the forest cover. That is good for the environment and for the balance of the oxygen gas present in the atmosphere. The according to the latest data, we have the forest area up to almost 23 or 23% or something, which has almost come down to 18 or 17% right now. All right, so the land degradation and conservation measures, these are going to be having a very much significance, because the human activities of for deforestation, overgrazing, mining have contributed significantly to the degradation of land. Mining sites leave deep scars and traces of overburdening the land, which leads to soil erosion. In the recent years, industrial effluents as waste have become major sources of land and water pollution in many parts of the country. There are a couple of ways in which we can mend this, and some of them are, for example, afforestation, or you should say growing more trees, proper management of grazing, planting of shelter belts for plants, stabilization of stand dunes by growing thorny bushes. This is again to prevent soil erosion, proper management of wastelands, control in mining activities, proper discharge and disposal of industrial effluents and wastes after treatment, etc. Okay, after this, we'll be talking about soil as a resource in the next presentation. Thank you.